Welcome to 7 Days of English channel.
Hey there. Thanks for being here with me today. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, wait, why did I say it like that? Or if small talk makes you sweat more than cardio, you're not alone. Today, I want to take you through a story. Not a lecture, not a list of hacks, but a real messy, kind of funny journey about learning how to talk so people actually get you. And maybe, just maybe, how to listen so you can finally stop guessing what people mean. So, if you've ever stumbled through your words or wished you could hit undo mid-sentence, pull up a chair, this one's for you. I wish I could tell you that the room fell silent because I said something so powerful, so moving, that everyone needed a moment to let it sink in. But no, it was the kind of silence that feels thick, uncomfortable, the kind that makes you check if your zipper's down or if you accidentally projected your grocery list instead of your slides. I had just finished explaining the main idea behind our department's new outreach project. At least, I thought I had explained it. My voice cracked halfway through the third sentence. My throat went dry. I used the phrase synergize verticals like I knew what it meant. I didn't. I blinked at the group. They blinked back. Then James, our office skeptic who always has something smug to say, raised his hand slowly and asked, "So, what exactly are we doing?" I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again like a goldfish that just discovered existential dread. Someone coughed. Someone else clicked their pen. My manager gave me a tight smile that said, "Please stop talking now." I mumbled something about sending a follow-up email and backed away from the projector like it might bite me. My legs carried me back to my seat. Somehow, though I was pretty sure they'd turned to jello halfway through. The meeting moved on without me. I sat there nodding and scribbling in my notebook like I was taking notes. But my brain was spiraling. Again? I had prepared. I had even practiced in front of my cat the night before. Why did I keep freezing? Why couldn't I just say what I meant without sounding like a confused robot quoting a business buzzword generator? That afternoon, back at my desk, I kept replaying the moment. My stomach churned every time I remembered the look on James's face. Was I always like this? Had I always been this awkward in front of people? I scrolled through old emails and chat threads, and wow, yes, long, meandering messages, apologies buried under 5 paragraphs, overthinking every emoji, typing "no worries at all" while dying inside. In person, I was either rambling too much or backing off too quickly. I had entire conversations in my head that never made it out of my mouth. It wasn't just work. My best friend once told me, "Sometimes I don't know what you're actually trying to say. Are you mad? Are you joking? Are you okay?" That one stung, but she wasn't wrong. In that quiet moment, with my desk fan humming and my coffee gone cold, something clicked. I realized I had spent years trying to sound smart, professional, put together, and completely forgot how to be clear. I had confused talking with connecting. And that was the real problem, wasn't it? I wasn't afraid of speaking, I was afraid of being misunderstood, so I overcompensated with fancy words and stiff delivery and ended up sounding like a malfunctioning GPS. The irony? I actually had good ideas. I cared about my work, I cared about my friends, but my words never seemed to carry that across. They came out tangled, unsure, lost in translation between brain and mouth. That evening, I went home, curled up with Mr. Whiskers on the couch, and stared at the ceiling. I whispered, "I need to learn how to say what I mean without sounding like I swallowed a thesaurus." And for once, I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt curious. Maybe communication isn't just about talking. Maybe it's about learning to say something real, even if your voice shakes, even if you mess it up. I grabbed a notebook and scribbled on the first page, Step 1. Stop hiding behind big words. It wasn't always like this, or maybe it was, and I just didn't know how bad it had gotten. Back in middle school, I had a lisp, not a cute one, the kind that made every S sound like a tiny faucet leak. I once raised my hand to say, "Miss Simmons, may I go to the restroom?" And somehow, what came out was a snake impersonation. The whole class laughed. I held it in until I got to the hallway, then cried in a stall while my shoes squeaked against the floor. In 8th grade, we had to give a speech in front of the entire English class. 5 minutes about any topic. I chose dolphins. I liked dolphins. They were smart and made funny sounds. But the moment I stood up there, holding my note cards with sweaty fingers, I forgot every single dolphin fact I knew. I think I said, dolphins are, wet. Then I blacked out. Not literally, but mentally, it was like someone switched off the lights. 5 minutes turned into 2 awkward ones, and I ran back to my seat pretending it was totally fine. By high school, I avoided anything that required talking in public. Group work, I'd do the slides, not the speaking. Presentations, I faked being sick more times than I'd like to admit. I once tried to compliment a guy I liked. I said, "Your shoes are really, foot-like." He stared. I stared. The moment dissolved like a sad marshmallow. College wasn't much better. My first few work-study emails were legendary for the wrong reasons. I once sent my supervisor a 4-paragraph essay just to ask if I could switch shifts. I included phrases like "due to unforeseen circumstances" and "in light of logistical complexity." She replied, "Sure. Next time, just say, 'Can I switch?'" I wanted to crawl into a trash can and roll down the quad. Even texts were tricky. I overthought everything. Every message had 5 drafts. I once asked a roommate if she was upset because she used a period instead of an exclamation mark. She wasn't. She just ended the sentence. Looking back now, I see the pattern, and not just in words. Every time I had to express something real, disappointment, affection, uncertainty, that's a lake. I either shut down or babbled my way into confusion. I wanted to connect, I just didn't know how. Worse, I thought everyone else was born knowing this stuff. Some people just seem to glide through conversations, knowing when to speak, when to pause, when to smile and say the perfect thing. I, on the other hand, once said, "I love you," and immediately followed it with, not in a weird way. The truth was, I never learned how to just say the thing, clearly, kindly, honestly. So I wrapped my words in bubble wrap. I rambled, I softened, I overcompensated, and eventually people stopped hearing what I meant at all. I started to believe that I just wasn't good at talking, that I was more of a writer, the kind of person who communicates better through texts or long emails or notes left on fridges. But deep down, I wanted to be one of those people who could walk into a room and say something real and be understood. I guess I never realized communication isn't something you're born good at. It's something you build, or at least unlearn and rebuild. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to start. It started with a friend, not a stranger, not a boss, just my friend Casey, the kind of person who always says what she means and somehow gets away with it. We were sitting on her couch one Saturday, sharing a sad-looking bag of chips and watching something forgettable on Netflix, when she turned to me out of nowhere and said, "You know you don't actually listen to people, right?" I choked a little on my Diet Dr. Pepper. "Excuse me?" She shrugged. "You're always thinking of what to say next. It's like you're trying to win the conversation." I blinked. What? "It's not a bad thing," she added, crunching a chip like nothing happened. "I think it's just how you protect yourself." Protect myself, the words hit a little too close to the bone. I didn't argue. I couldn't. I just stared at the TV while my brain looped that sentence like a pop song I couldn't turn off. That night, I Googled communication classes. I was about to close the tab because obviously I wasn't going to actually enroll in something that made me talk to strangers. But something stopped me. Maybe I was just tired of the loop, tired of sounding like a secondhand email template, tired of people not knowing what I meant, including me. So I signed up Tuesday evenings, 90 minutes, 8 weeks. The class was called Speak with Confidence. I assumed it would be cheesy. I pictured icebreakers and people saying things like, use your voice in uncomfortably enthusiastic tones. And, okay, the first week kind of was, but week 2 surprised me. The instructor, Gloria, asked us to pair up and do something she called mirror listening. One person talked, the other had to repeat back what they heard, but in their own words. I dreaded it, but when my partner, a woman named Cheryl with soft eyes and a nervous smile, shared about her struggles at work, I actually listened. I didn't plan a response. I didn't jump in. I just paid attention. Then I repeated back what I thought she said. It sounds like you feel invisible, even though you're working really hard. Cheryl blinked. Her eyes went shiny. Yeah, she said. That's exactly it. And something in me cracked open. The next week at work, I tried the same thing with my manager. He was explaining a delay in the schedule, and instead of nodding mindlessly and zoning out, I said, so basically the holdup isn't from our team, it's from legal? He looked surprised. Yes, exactly. I nearly fell out of my chair. One day, I even stopped myself mid-sentence during a meeting. I caught that old urge to ramble, to sound impressive. And instead I paused, took a breath, and said, actually, let me say that more clearly. Nobody laughed, nobody rolled their eyes. They listened. It was small, ridiculously small, but it felt like moving a brick, one I didn't even know I'd been carrying. At home, I started practicing with Jenny. I asked more questions. I paused before replying. I said things like, wait, do you want advice right now, or do you just need me to listen? She once gasped and said, who are you? We laughed, but I saw the way she relaxed, the way she kept talking. It made me realize maybe listening is talking, maybe good communication starts there. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like a fraud. I felt present. Like maybe this whole connecting with people thing wasn't magic. It was a skill, a muscle, a habit I could build, even if it meant wobbling at first. Of course, just when I started to feel like I was finally getting the hang of this communication thing, the universe decided to humble me. It was a Thursday, a big meeting. Half the leadership team was there, including someone from corporate I had only ever seen in pixelated headshots on email threads. The topic? Project delays again. And my job? Explain what went wrong and how we planned to fix it. I had practiced, I had notes, I even wrote out a little opening line that felt confident, clear. I told myself, this is it. You've got this. I stood up, smiled, took a deep breath, like Gloria taught us in class. And then I opened my mouth. The words that came out, they were technically English but emotionally, robotic, flat. I had rehearsed so hard that I sounded like a customer service chatbot trying to sound warm. We understand there has been concern regarding the timeline, and we are proactively implementing recalibration strategies. Yeah, recalibration strategies. Someone from HR tilted their head. Someone else started typing on their laptop aggressively. I kept going, trying to sound confident. But inside, I could hear myself spiraling. At one point, I used the phrase cross-functional misalignment. Why? I still don't know. Then, right in the middle of my next sentence, someone cut me off. Sorry, said Brad from marketing, not sounding sorry at all. I'm confused. Are you saying this was a planning issue or a resource problem? Everyone turned toward me. My brain froze. My hands went clammy. I could feel my ears getting hot. For a second, I considered just nodding and saying yes, which would have made no sense, but at least it would have filled the silence. But instead, I tried something different. I blinked, took a slow breath, and said, as calmly as I could, "That's a good question. Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. Are you wondering whether we underestimated the scope or if we lack the staff to deliver it?" Brad raised an eyebrow. Yeah, that. I nodded. Then I'd say probably a bit of both. But the main issue started with scope. Silence. Then my manager gave the smallest nod. The person from corporate, the one who looked like a LinkedIn ad, even jotted something down. The meeting went on. I sat down feeling like I'd just survived a minor earthquake. My knees were still buzzing. But you know what? I didn't fall apart. I didn't run. I didn't melt into a puddle under the table. I messed up badly and still managed to find my way back. Afterwards, I stayed behind to pack up my notes. Gloria's voice echoed in my head. You can't grow if you're afraid to look silly sometimes. And oh boy, did I look silly. But here's the thing, for the first time, I didn't beat myself up. I didn't spend the rest of the day replaying every awkward word. I just thought, okay, not great, but also not the end of the world. That night, I sat on my couch in pajama pants, eating leftover lasagna, and wrote in my journal, today I flopped, but I flopped forward. Because maybe progress isn't a straight line. Maybe it's 2 steps forward, one dramatic faceplant, and then one shaky step back up. And honestly, I'll take that over silence any day. After the Thursday meeting disaster, which I now refer to as the recalibration debacle, something shifted. Not in a dramatic movie montage kind of way, but more like when you move the shower knob just enough to finally get the water temperature right. I started noticing real life was basically one big communication lab, full of pop quizzes I didn't sign up for. Like that weekend, I went to visit my mom. We have a pretty standard relationship. She talks, I nod, and somewhere in there we misinterpret each other completely. Usually I'd go on autopilot. Oh, lots of uh-huhs and make sense while mentally organizing my grocery list. But this time, I tried something different. We were sitting at the kitchen table. She was peeling apples for one of her therapeutic pies and telling me about Aunt Marie's 4th retirement party. Normally, I'd have tuned out somewhere around the second mention of potluck logistics. Instead, I leaned in and said, Mom, I feel like you've mentioned Marie's retirement a few times. Is there something about it that's bugging you? She paused, looked up. Well, yes, I wasn't going to say anything, but I felt like she made the whole party about herself again. And it brought up all these old feelings. It's silly. It's not silly, I said, and meant it. I'm glad you told me. She blinked. You're really listening today. Trying to, I smiled. Also, I'm not checking my phone every 5 minutes. That's new too. She laughed. And I swear we had the first real conversation in months. Not just words exchanged, but something softer. Something that made her eyes light up like when I was a kid and told her a secret. And then came Tuesday. The dreaded couples check-in with Sam, my partner, fellow snack hoarder, and co-survivor of IKEA builds. Normally, we avoided anything resembling serious communication by binge-watching cooking shows and pretending everything was fine. But that night, I said, hey, I've been trying to be better at saying things out loud. Can I try something kind of awkward? Sam raised an eyebrow. Do I need wine for this? Probably, I laughed, but I'll be brave. I told him that lately I'd been feeling disconnected. Not in a dramatic breakup kind of way, just like we were in parallel playlists, not dancing to the same song. I expected defensiveness, eye rolling, maybe a dismissive, "You're overthinking." But instead he said, "Yeah, I felt that too. I just didn't want to make a big deal out of it." We talked, really talked, about how we were both overwhelmed, how we missed laughing more, how "I love you" had slowly become code for "don't forget the oat milk." It wasn't fancy, it wasn't perfectly worded, but it was honest. And afterward, I felt lighter. Even the next day at work, when I had to explain a delay on a report, I didn't wrap my apology in passive language like, "Unfortunately, there seems to have been some confusion." Nope. I just said, "I missed the deadline. That's on me. Here's my plan to fix it." No one died. My manager nodded. "Thanks for owning that." And I walked away. No drama, no guilt spiral. Turns out, saying what you mean kindly is not only possible, it's powerful. But the trick, timing, intention, and a little bit of courage, it doesn't always come out smooth. Sometimes I still overthink, still hesitate, but every time I try, I feel more like myself and less like a panicked script reading robot. These weren't giant, flashy wins. No standing ovation, no viral TED Talk. Just small human moments that made the world feel a little less exhausting and a little more real. The funny thing about growth, it shows up when you're not looking for it. Like one morning, I walked into the office kitchen, hair still damp, toast in my hand, and noticed a sticky note on the coffee maker. Out of order again, just like my patience. Signed, Tara from accounting. I laughed out loud, and when Tara walked in, she grinned. "That's the first time I've heard you actually laugh in here," she said. I blinked. "Wait, I laugh all the time." She shrugged. "Not like this. Not the kind that makes people want to laugh with you." And it hit me. Maybe I'd been showing up different lately, and people were picking up on it before I even noticed. Later that week, I was pulled into a team huddle. Impromptu presentation, of course. Normally, my heart would have sprinted ahead of me and jumped out the window, but this time, I paused, breathed, locked eyes with the people around me, and just spoke, not like a robot, not like someone trying to sound important, just like me. I kept it short. I used words I actually understood. I made a dumb little analogy about spaghetti and deadlines. People chuckled. And at the end, my boss, who usually just grunted in meetings, said, "That was actually helpful. Nice work." Actually helpful. That felt better than any gold star. Later, Jenny texted me. Out of the blue, it said, "Hey, just wanted to say, I've noticed how much clearer you are lately. Talking to you used to feel like solving a riddle while blindfolded. Now it feels easy." I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I replied, "Thanks. That means more than you know." Because it did mean more than she knew. Way more. All those awkward practice conversations, all those "can I rephrase that" moments, they were working quietly, patiently. Even Sam said it one night while we were brushing our teeth, which honestly is when all the most unexpected compliments happen. He looked at me in the mirror and said, "You've been easier to talk to lately. Like, I don't have to guess so much." I mumbled through my toothpaste, "You too." Because he had. We both had. Turns out communication is contagious in the best way. At work, I noticed people ask for my input more, not because I suddenly became a genius, but because when I did speak, I wasn't speaking just to fill space. I was intentional, grounded. Even when I was nervous, I owned it. Once, someone tried to talk over me in a meeting, classic Brad. But this time, I didn't shrink. I raised my hand a little, smiled, and said, "Let me finish this thought. Then I'd love to hear yours." Brad actually waited, and when I finished, he nodded and said, "Yeah, okay, that makes sense." And I almost fell off my chair. It wasn't about being loud or perfect or slick. It was about showing up as myself fully, even if shakily. And somehow, that was enough. Scratch that. It was better than enough. It's a rainy Sunday afternoon, the kind that smells like old books and clean laundry. I'm sitting in my favorite corner of a coffee shop, half sipping, half staring at a notebook that still has a faint coffee ring from last month. Outside, people are rushing by under umbrellas. Inside, the world feels slower, quieter, like it's finally letting me catch up. And for once, I'm not in a hurry to speak. I flip through a few pages of that same old notebook, the one where I wrote step 1. Stop hiding behind big words back when all this started. I smile because, wow, what a ride. There was the time I choked in a meeting and said something about vertical synergy. The day I asked my mom an honest question and she blinked like I'd grown a second head. That disastrous attempt at sounding mature that ended with someone cutting me off halfway through. And yet, every time I got it wrong, I got a little better. Communication, I've learned, isn't a performance, it's a process. It's not just about saying the right thing. It's about meaning it. It's about listening when you'd rather escape, pausing when you'd rather defend, owning your mess-ups without turning them into identity crises. Some days I still mess up. I still talk too fast when I'm nervous. I still overthink text messages like I'm decoding ancient scrolls. I still catch myself trying too hard, trying to sound smart or funny or chill. But now I catch it. I laugh at it. And I adjust without shame. That might be the biggest shift of all. People think communication starts with your mouth, but I've found it starts in the heart, in the tiny decision to be present, to be honest, to care more about understanding than about being impressive. And once you start choosing that, even just once a day, everything begins to change. So, if you're someone who's ever felt misunderstood, if you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, why did I say it like that? Or if you spent more time rehearsing what to say than actually saying it, you're not broken. You're human. And humans learn. That's the most beautiful part. So, thank you for being here, for listening, for sitting with me through the awkward, the funny, the tiny victories, and the almost tears. If this story made you laugh, or breathe easier, or think, hey, maybe I can try that too, then do me a small favor. Hit like, share it with someone who's still stuck in their own recalibration strategy phase. And if you haven't yet, subscribe for more real, messy human stories like this one. Take care out there. And remember, you've got this. One conversation at a time.